And it has been a wild week for me and Nicole. I'm Aurora Light, and this is Radiant Soul Nicole. And we're part of the Radiant Evolution Collective, along with Nina Infinity, who's not able to join us this week. But last week we had our first chat in what we're calling the Illumination Series. And it was a lot of fun. We were talking about illumination and how much light was pouring into the planet, how it was like highlighting all of the stuff in the shadows, personally, professionally, globally. Like shit was coming up for us to see and witness. And this week we're going to talk about integrating all of that energy and what that means and why we need to do it and how we do it. But that light continued streaming in last week. Oh my gosh, I was exhausted. I felt like I couldn't get much work done. I also felt like things were literally just like melting away, and I had to let go of so many stories about like who I was, what I was doing. Everything was just shifting so much that it was all I could do to stay present, and I couldn't do a lot else. I was basically focusing on being rather than doing to survive. So, Nicole, how did you feel over this last week?
Yeah, the same. So at our conversation last Monday, I was like, I'm scared that I'm going to jinx it by saying something that things were feeling so good. And then all of a sudden last week was really intense again. And maybe I did jinx it, but maybe it was just the energy. I think that was more the case. That first week of May was so intense. I also had a hard time. I was trying to push through working, I think, a little bit more maybe than I could have, because I do have like a launch coming up and a program starting, and was really uh wanting to and needing to get things done for it, but also trying to honor myself at the same time. But I really did need a lot more time for being. Anxiety was like way higher than normal last week, and um yeah, also reevaluating who I am, what I'm doing, what is my purpose here on this earth. I'm like, a lot of last week, I was really feeling like, oh, maybe I just want like a job and not have to like go through this intensity and just go to work and do my job and be done. And then it's like, but actually, I've gotten so far away from my corporate job and, not working for a year and starting my own stuff. I'm like, that would be really silly to just give up on everything right now. But I felt like that's what I wanted to do a lot of the time.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel you. There was a lot of, wow, what is happening? What am I doing? Everything feels so intense and so big. So, if you're watching this either live or on the replay, let us know if you had any of those sensations as well of like what is going on. We also live in Alberta where new restrictions, COVID restrictions were announced, and there was a lot of energy coming up in the collective of like this is wrong, no matter what people were thinking, whether it was too much, too little, too late, whatever, right? So there's been the collective energy of nothing feels right now. And so we're navigating a whole boatload of all of these energies. So when we're talking about energy coming in, light coming in, some people call it influxes of energy, influxes of data points, which is information, which light is. Light and love, just they carry information. We're receiving more from the cosmos, from our higher selves on that energetic level, and it's physicalized. You can see it in things like solar storms, geomagnetic storms, and it is hard on our bodies. It was also physically evident in things like the Schumann resonance. If people aren't familiar with the Schumann resonance, it is the measurement of like the energy of what people call the Earth's heartbeat. And it normally sits way down at like, I don't know, 5.87 hertz. And in the last few years, it has been spiking up to like 100, 110 over this last while, including some of the highest numbers we've seen this week. Like, so it's no wonder that we were tired but wired and anxiety was coming up and we just felt like we didn't know what was what. There was a real physical thing happening where the energy was literally so intense our bodies were going like, oh my god, what is this, right? So we get to have a lot of compassion for ourselves, especially when we're like not getting our work done, because sometimes you just need to get through the day, and the work is, can you take care of yourself through this process instead of
Mhm.
overworking yourself or getting into that point that you spin and then you burn out and you have to recover from that.
Mhm.
So I personally woke up today feeling like, whew, okay, after 10 hours of sleep, I needed that. Things had shifted. Not everybody's going to be there yet. I tend to be one who is sort of at the forefront of waves. I'm a pioneer. It's what I came here to do, lead the charge. And it's okay if you're not there yet, if you're still in the thick of this energetic storm we've been in. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I want to promise you that it does get a little bit more gentle and you will come out of it going like, oh, I think I actually have a better idea now of who I am. Even if I don't consciously understand it, I can feel like pieces have been put back together inside of me and the things that I didn't need kind of got melted away. How about you?
Mm. Yeah, today I am feeling better. I had a big conversation last night with my husband and um I was feeling all of this stuff and like who am I? What am I here to do? Why am I revisiting this again? Because I feel like I should know this by now. And after I talked to him, I felt so much better because I realized I was putting so much pressure on myself. And today I actually, well, even last night, I felt like after a conversation, my body was like a little bit shaking, like I was letting go of all of that intense stress that I was holding on to, and I could just be again. And I must say that made my day way better today. It's nice not waking up with like intense anxiety and
Mm.
stress. So that I can, yeah, just kind of just go about my normal life again. I do kind of feel like I'm getting through that needle of getting through that eye of the needle and slowly coming out on the other side. And we'll see where that all lands, I guess, as the week progresses. Hmm. But I am already feeling like more upliftment in the energy, more lightness.
A little calmer energetically for sure. Oh my gosh, it has been a wild one. And what I really noticed for myself and for you, Nicole, and you can tell me about what it was like for you, but um, we both had all of these ideas for and expectations for things we were going to create and how it was going to go. And these have been things we had started planning back last year and, through the early part of the year, different programs, courses, launches. And I did not go as planned. And I'm usually this magical manifester. I'll sell out programs and it'll be exactly like what I want. I will be energetically close to having more clients. And then all of a sudden I'll be like, okay, I feel like I'm ready. And they'll just show up in my DMs and I'll be like, oh, hey, new person. Like it has been magic and very effortless over this last year until my launch of my new program Evolve, which I was expecting to have like 18 people in. And we have a smaller cohort, and that is absolutely wonderful. It's much more intimate, and it's not going to look like anything that I planned out because when I made the plans, I was a different person. That was back in like February, January, February. All of the things that I thought I was going to do and want to do, they don't exist anymore, at least not in the same way. So I had to be really okay with like just letting go of the expectations of how things should look and understand that I was getting more information. But I didn't have it at the time that I designed all of this. And now I see laid out in front of me this completely new path. All of these different opportunities opened up for me. And I was like, oh, okay, well, kind of almost wish I had known that before I spent all this energy creating something that wasn't going to be the thing, right? I wish, but I don't at the same time because I fully trust that it's exactly how it needs to be. and I'm being led in the direction I need to go. All of these other things came in afterwards. And I'm like, well, this is actually more aligned. This is actually better. This is where I'm headed. This feels even better. So my expectations and reality did not meet. But I think when I'm looking back about 6 months to a year from now, I'm going to look at it and go, wow, I know that this turned out even better than that thing I was hoping for. Right. So I know you kind of have had a similar experience of expectations not meeting reality right now, no matter how magical and you are at manifesting.
Totally. I am also launching a program right now, and I have not had the number of people show up that I was hoping for either. And my expectations were a little bit lower because this is the first time I've done this. So, but still, I am. Hmm, it's been interesting to be like, okay, so this is the first thing that I'm doing. I don't expect that, like, I don't have a huge audience, and that's okay. Have minimal expectations, but still, it was still smaller than that, what's been happening. And also, I'm trusting that it's okay. But I actually saw somebody post something about how the energy of 2021 is similar to the energy of 2012. And that made me think back a little bit. And in 2012, I was kind of like what I'm feeling right now with this, like, what am I doing with my life? And who am I? And I also want things to change immediately, instant manifestation. I want it to happen now. And I don't want to have to put in all the work to work for, to work for things. And that back then caused me so much freaking stress, like actually, like, it killed my gut. I ended up with like depression and anxiety, and so I've been experiencing like depressive moments because I think it's just the intensity, experiencing the anxiety, but it hasn't consumed me like it did back then. So thank you for 9 years of experience to help me navigate this storm. um, but I'm like, oh, this lesson's coming back around again now. And it is time for me to learn from what didn't work in the past and hmm, just understand that, yeah. And I also look back, and so what I learned back then is things did work out. We wanted to move to Victoria, and we were like fully invested in moving. It was actually going to happen. My husband had a job lined up and everything was ready to go. And then actually in one of my dance classes for my third eye dance, I got the message, it's all going to fall apart, but it'll be okay. And I was like, no, don't want that. And that's what happened. It all fell apart, but it was okay. And so I'm like, okay, I can trust because I have this experience in the past that when things don't work out the way I wanted to, doesn't mean that it's not the way that they should work out. That's for my highest good because it was better that we ended up staying here. It was what we needed. And I'm fully in surrender and I'm like, okay, just keep going with whatever unfolds and reevaluating, shifting as I need to, and not holding on to so much expectation. And that was actually a message that I got in like December about for the energy of 2021 is like, don't have expectations for this year. Like that is such a big thing. And I kind of forgot about it. Now I'm like, okay, just another chance to let go of those expectations, like any expectations, just let them go because things are changing so rapidly. Things are changing. Um, we're like entering a whole new earth, a whole new paradigm that we haven't experienced before. So we can't even begin to expect what is anything because we don't know. We haven't had this experience before. So just let it all go and go into that. I want to say trust, but I heard that interesting conversation with Jason and Skylar about trust versus faith. So trying to let go of the trust even because there's expectations attached to trust. Like I'll trust I'll be taken care of, but faith is phew, even less than that.
Faith is that surrendered place of it's going to be what it's going to be, but it's going to be for me. Just like what you're saying, gosh, I love that story. And thank you for bringing up what the energy of 2020 versus 2012 is like. Sorry, 2021, the year we're in right now. because we'll talk about integrating some energies in a moment, but I need to share with you that my 2013 was the best year of my life, up until probably last year. So very, very interesting because 2012 had a lot of that falling away energy of things that don't serve me. And it brought me into a 2013, which was a year of radical self-care, radical listening to my body. I spent an entire year without ingesting any mind altering, chemicals. I went completely sober, no drinking, no smoking weed. Um, it was a year I traveled around the entire world, made so many friends, took so many programs. I connected with myself and listened so deeply to my intuition. And it was the best year, um, really up until things shifted again. And I, had a daughter and all of that. So I'm excited for what next year's going to bring for me personally then, because that stuff had to fall apart, right? There are 2012 is supposed to be the apocalypse, right? But apocalypse just means a lifting of the veils or an unveiling. And so I believe that's very much what's happening right now. That's what all this illumination is. The curtains are being pulled back and we're seeing a lot. And for some of us, we're seeing like this stuff, like we talked about last week, the shadows, things that we did not really want to look at. And it's right there for all of us to see personally, professionally, and in society, right? So it looks way more chaotic, but we have to see it in order to fix it, right? We have to see it, we have to be aware of it. And so as things are coming up and being illuminated and all of this energy is coming in, we need to be able to integrate the wisdom of what we have been learning, what we have been seeing, before we can then take the steps to actually make the changes that are going to come from this. So let's move into that, just chatting about like, what is integration to you? What does it mean? Why do we need it?
When I really understood integration was when I was taking my ecstatic dance facilitator training. And prior to that, I'm like, oh yeah, integration is just like one of the like check boxes in the process of healing and growing and learning. But I didn't really get like that's like the mind level understanding of integration, that it's important, but the actual integration is like that surrender, that place of beingness, and not necessarily needing to do anything. And I know there is a process in the brain, I think, that happens of integration and in the body, but there's like, we need to make space for that beingness to just allow ourselves to be where we don't, our mind doesn't need to do anything. And so for me, integration is, it's like making that space, creating the conditions to allow everything to become part of you so that you can embody that information, that light, this new information that's coming through, mm, and then you can be it. And yeah, I've been thinking about how to explain integration, and it's such like it's to me it's a thing that's hard to explain with words because it's something that you it's like it's the embodiment of it. And like that's why I think yoga, doing shavasana at the end of a yoga class is so important. And I always like, I would be the person that would be laying there, they'd say stay as long as you want, and they'd have to kick me out of the studio because they'd be starting the next class soon. I'm like, well, you said I could stay as long as I want, and just resting in this beautiful energy. And then some people are like up immediately and out the door. And so it's so interesting because like yoga is, you've moved all this energy, you are maybe feeling that yoga bliss state after the class, and then you're not letting yourself like embody it and take it all in, and like yeah, I don't know, I can't, words are hard for me to explain it. What do you think about integration?
I think you did a great job of both explaining it and then illustrating it with that example. It's perfect because, yeah, the integration is having the space to actually allow all of the new information, the new experiences, the learning and the growth to land, to be digested, to become a part of you. And if you are always just going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next course to the next thing, and you don't take time or create space to let things land, then it's not going to stick, right? You need to have time. It's like studying for an exam and cramming it in and then forgetting it all 10 minutes after you wrote the exam versus taking time with the information, letting it sit, letting it gel, letting it land, and utilizing it afterwards in a way that allows it to become fully embedded into you, right? The things that you created space for, and then afterwards use are more well integrated. So if you've gone through an experience, let's call it like taking a class, because a lot of us love taking classes and everything like that. We love getting certifications, love learning new things. I'm obsessed with learning new things. I love it. But if I just keep going like class after class after class, and I never take the information that I actually learned and let it settle and then apply it and utilize it, it's not a part of me the same way anything that I decided to learn, enjoy, and then use during the next phases of my life, right? I love belief repatterning so much because part of the certification program was about utilizing it for self every day, right? Choosing a word of intention and repatterning as things come up, right? That allowed me to integrate it. And it's such a big part of it that Suze Casey, the developer, calls that program Learn It, Live It, because
Mm.
she doesn't want people to only have an intellectual knowledge of it. I think it's coming from the intellectual knowledge into the like experiential, which is very different. Intellectual knowledge, fire is hot. Experiential knowledge is out, right? Like actually understanding it. And you can tell a kid that, the stove is going to be hot as many times as you want, but until they touch it and they're like, wow, that's too hot, I'm going to stay away from it, it doesn't become embodied in them. They don't understand that wisdom. It needs to be integrated. I'm not saying you got to burn yourself to integrate, but that process of actually experiencing it and having the space to become it is really, really key. I loved your Shavasana example. um, what other ways do you have to integrate things, because I know you got a zillion?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's why I've always loved journaling so much because it gives me that space to really reflect on the experience and look at it and feel it from different angles. And, sometimes I try to like apply it from different views of, when I came up with the quote, loving yourself for who you are is forgiving yourself for who you aren't. I'm like, okay, is this true? It seems really true, but let me like inspect that in different ways and look at it in different angles. And you get that really like well-rounded um knowledge, but yeah, embodiment of it and looking at it from different ways is so helpful. And that's what, yeah, so that's why journaling is such a important integration practice for me. Um,
Can I just share with respect to journaling? It's also so powerful because it's literally light grounding and taking your ideas in and through your body and out into the world onto paper. That's a hugely important way of integrating things and processing. So, if we go back to the class example, a lot of people understand material better if they take notes by physically writing it down rather than just listening or even typing it, right? So when you physically write things down, you are actually integrating it into your body because it goes through you and then back out into the world.
yeah, that is so key. And I definitely did way better in school when I studied like that and took
Mhm.
notes from the textbook while I was studying for sure. Um, Yeah, and then sometimes it's, like, literally just making space for myself to, like, watch Netflix and, like, not be doing anything, like, not actively consuming more information, not and sometimes it's not even Netflix, sometimes it's like, I just need to sit and be here and do nothing right now and, like, stare at the wall for a little bit, watch the light around me, um, listen to, like, healing tones or, something that's just very not a lot of stimulation, just being, just coming into that beingness. That's why I love my hammock so much. I think that was the first way I discovered how to be. 'cause I didn't feel like I needed to be doing anything other than, like, hammocking is its own, like, it's a verb, it's its own thing. For
I love
me, anyways.
Yeah, because it's like you're actively relaxing instead of not doing anything. So it gives your brain the idea that you are in fact in process of something.
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Time without input is really huge for me. And I tend to be one like, oh, I should listen to a podcast. I should take this class. I should learn while I'm doing the dishes, while I'm doing things. And I fill my time with input. And when I forget that I also need time without input, then I feel overfull, right? And then I get all frazzled and my brain is just too full of information. So I need personally to make sure that I spend some time doing the dishes without listening to a podcast or taking a class. And I try to make one leg of my trip when I'm driving and dropping my daughter off without listening to something so I can just be. Same thing. I used to always listen to music or a podcast or something while I was walking home from dropping her off at school. But then I realized I could just be more time alone with my beingness. And sometimes that means thinking, sometimes it meant not thinking or just like being in presence. Whew, that supports me a lot. And it is something that I have to consciously cultivate. And now it's become a habit and routine. But just asking anyone that's watching this, do you have enough space where you are not being bombarded by information so you can integrate?
Mhm.
That's so huge for me. I also really want to add another one, if I may jump in here. For me, I also need to move to integrate things. I am a kinesthetic learner. And when I would be in class, I would be a wiggly, fidgety, dancy one because it helped me process, right? If I go through a week without moving enough, without sweating enough, then energy gets like staticky inside me. But when I take time to literally move, dance, breathe, sweat, walk, run, whatever, then that energy gets integrated and goes through me instead of being trapped inside me. And that's so huge for my mental, physical, and emotional health. If I do not, like, watch out, I am not my normal self. I am a total, I'd say a lot of words, but they're probably not appropriate for this segment.
Mm. I feel you on that. It's like there's so much information and we have to process the information. We can't not. So if we're constantly like filling ourselves up to the capacity of which we can handle, then it does make us like, because we need to process it. So through moving, through being, through just taking that space. I also love actually another one is to expand my creation container, my light body, my energy field, because that gives me more space to like not that I'm trying to actively pull in more than, but it gives me more space so that more can flow through without getting in that constriction, that stuckness, like you were talking about, like why you like to move your body.
Absolutely. And we do have a really beautiful expanding your creation container ceremony in the playground. And in fact, now that we're talking about it, I feel like the playground membership that we created with Nina is literally for integration purposes. It gives me personally the opportunity to come into ceremony, and every ceremony that we do typically has all of these different ways of setting intentions, but then creating space, coming into beingness, doing breath work, sound, movement, and having that integration time and peace. So it's like we've created something to make sure that we are getting what we need to be integrating.
Mm. Yeah, look at us go. Creating the thing that we need the most. And all of that is so important. And it also is such a great way for me to stay in alignment because that is a huge key when you're, connected mind, body, heart, and soul to mm, all of those things. When they're in alignment, life just flows so much easier. And we are able to navigate this intense energy. And it's going to be like, it's going to be intense for a while still. It just makes life so much flow so much easier.
Absolutely. So I just want to invite anybody that is not necessarily good at consciously creating that space for themselves, like me. to come and join us in the playground. It's our monthly membership. It's $33 US a month, and the content library is extensive. And we also have two amazing ceremonies that are live a month for you to come for an hour and a half, and just be in a sacred space where you can integrate, explore. Also, we put in things to create tools to shift frequencies, elevate frequencies, belief repatterning. We've had Kundalini yoga, SRT, breath of bliss ceremonies. Like, it just keeps getting more expansive. We've got someone coming in to do an ancestral activation and meditation with us as well. So if you're feeling like it would help if someone was like offering you the space to integrate, like, come and play, because we're creating it for us because we need it, but also for everyone else that wants to join. So I'm just going to stick that. If you're live on Facebook, the link is in the comments now, and I'll of course add it to the YouTube notes as well. Breath work is one we didn't really mention, but like, this is huge as well. You can do breath work, or you can just take a freaking big breath. What does that do for you when you just like need to slow down?
Breath is so freaking powerful. So I consciously, or sorry, unconsciously, a lot of the time, I notice when I'm talking and I'm talking because I can pay more attention to what I'm doing when I'm on like Zoom or something. I sigh a lot. I'm like, I have all these sighs, letting things go. Like, working with you so much with belief patterning, I'm constantly breathing everything in as well, like breathing in more of what I want. And I actively work with breath to, manage my anxiety, manage my post concussion syndrome symptoms, to calm my parasympathetic nervous system. It's such a powerful tool. And in the um, in the morning activation rise and shine meditation that I just released for the playground, we use breath to clear our energy fields with breathing in crystalline light and breathing out it. And that's just such a powerful practice to cleanse, purify, clear your aura field. And I guess I'm just doing that right now as I'm speaking, clearing out more. So powerful. And yeah, what do you love using breath for?
First off, I could feel that as you were like breathing and fluffing the air. I was like, oh, that feels a little sparkly. I adore when people sigh, and I've spent, almost a decade facilitating people in varieties of ways, and I love getting them to take a deep breath and then sigh it out. And the sound of a bunch of people doing that at the same time is literally one of my favorite sounds in the world. It is profound because I can feel the relaxation that comes in. We so often hold ourselves in this shallow chest breathing, or just not consciously bringing in enough oxygen. And I know when I do that, my stress levels rise, my anxiety rises. So for me, a deep breath is like the fastest way to relax my nervous system. And if I close my eyes, I can go into a meditative state where I can access like my highest self and guides and all kinds of things with literally a breath or three breaths. And that's because I've practiced for decades. It might take more than that when you are still learning or starting out. But that's how powerful breath is for me. I can bring myself or my one on one clients who've worked with me into a deep meditation with a three breath start that I always do. And we've not only are calming our nervous system, but what I do is I'm priming people to be able to access that state through those breaths. That's why I always do it the same way, because then body, mind, and soul know, oh, we're going into a spiritual place, a spiritual journey in full connection right now. So I think that would probably be a fun way to close it up, to just do a couple deep breaths with everyone in the way that I really enjoy. This will be familiar to anyone that's ever worked with me, but let me show you my favorite way of breathing. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes or keep them open, especially if you're listening to this when you're driving or something. You can put your hands on your heart, and I want you to breathe in through your nose and fill up your belly first. Exhale slowly through your mouth like you're blowing a candle out. Breathe into your belly and then your heart. Blow the candle out slowly. Breathe into your belly, your heart, and then your crown. Blow that candle out, slowing things down. Take one more here. Breathe from your root all the way to your crown. Audible sigh. And just notice your body now. Notice the space that is created with 3 or 4 intentional breaths. Notice that you are deeper in presence. Notice that you are calmer. Your body will slow down and feel safe, safe enough to relax and open and integrate. If all you do is those 3 breaths a couple times a day, your life will change for the better. So when we're in this space right here, right now, I want to invite you all to join me in setting an intention to consciously create more time for integration, however that looks for you, whether it be through breath, through movement, through a practice of beingness, through creativity, through journaling, whatever comes up. Let's set the intention to cultivate more conscious integration in our life so we can navigate these continued energies and influxes of information with more grace and ease and compassion for ourselves, because we don't have to be going full on all the time. Set the intention to allow things to land, to integrate, and to digest so that what is important can become part of us and what we no longer need can fall away. Just another deep breath here. So it is.
So it is. So it will be.
Yeah. So it will be. We get to take just little moments like that to consciously create and direct the energy. And then we get to be co-creators instead of just being like pummeled by it.
Mhm. And sometimes, like last week, we can do that and it still feels like we're being pummeled by it, and we just have to surrender even more.
Preach. Yeah, it really does. So I hope this gives you an idea of some different ways that you can integrate these wild energies. I feel like we're going to have a little, I don't want to say pause because it's still going to be intense for people, but like it's going to feel a little bit lighter and more open for a bit. I feel like we're through the hardest spots, most of us right now, but I want to just say that chaos is going to continue reigning in the outer world as things are falling away, because anytime things are being destroyed, like systems and paradigms, it's going to look like chaos. So please continue to be very gentle with your heart, with your body, with your entire being, and the people that are around you, because they're going through it too. We are all coming into a deeper understanding of who we are, and where we're headed is more beautiful than we can even dream of. We don't know what it's going to look like. And so we could choose to be terrified of the unknown, or we could choose to be pioneers and hopeful and excited co-creators of what it is that we are bringing in here. So that second one sounds better to me. Join me, join Nicole.
Yes. But, 2012, Nicole struggled a lot more because I didn't know any of that stuff then. So while I'm still feeling these intense energies, it's so much easier in 2021.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. Well, we're going to have another conversation next week. I hope you'll join us then. And just sending you lots and lots of love. And let us know how you're going to make space to integrate all of this stuff. Let us know how it goes. Talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody.